CATAPULT.sonic is all about music and musicians in Lebanon. A very exciting project that was initiated by Station Beirut. We felt like it aligns totally with our objectives. This is why British Council Lebanon sought the partnership of Station on this exciting project that covers training for musicians and music bands in Lebanon, but also a focus on the production of music videos by 10 different bands. This is a program that believes that there's a huge market for the talent that we have in the country. We are aiming to launch a YouTube channel very soon under the name of the project, which is Shuruq. So Shuruq Sessions is where we will be releasing 24 music videos that will give visibility to the alternative music scene here in Lebanon. We're also engaging with Nabil Kanaan, director of Station, on different levels to allow for an exchange with the UK. Nabil's going to participate in Sonica, one of the major music festivals in Glasgow. And we hope that we're going to be able to export our music to international platforms and bring in UK music to Lebanon. This is a very exciting project, again, in an industry that we believe is full of possibilities and potential. And I hope that you're going to enjoy this conversation.
Welcome, everyone. We're back with another episode. This one is focused on the music industry in Lebanon. We have three fantastic guests. We have Nabil Kanaan, who is the director of Station, Anthony Churchman from Music Ally, and Maya Aghniadis, also known as Flugan, calling in from Athens. So excited to have all three of you here. Nabil, how about we start with you? Give us a sense of what you do and what you do in the music industry specifically to our listeners.
Well, thank you, first of all, to the British Council for inviting us, for being our partner on the project that we're going to talk about. And of course, to Afikra and our guests, Maya and Anthony. So Station was set up in 2013 in an old wood factory that was renovated to become an interdisciplinary art space. We're kind of in the Lower East Side of Beirut, geographically close to the Beirut Art Center, Ashkal Alwan, and a few other places. The area is gentrifying, but when we started in 2013, it was still pretty rough and industrial, old wood factories. And we started very experimentally, and developed over the years working on 4 different pillars. So visual culture, live arts, community projects, and our business model, it's a social enterprise in the arts. So we do rent the space out or do kind of commercial activities, sometimes just to be able to finance our more edgy arts programming. So over the years, Station hosted a lot of pretty edgy art projects, many that couldn't be presented elsewhere. Station, took the extra step of hosting these. I mean, everything from revolutionary art exhibitions like the Dada exhibition that we did, and we've done a lot with Dada, to the 2 only prides that have happened in the region, where their opening nights happened at Station. We've supported migrant communities. So it's a very engaged art space. So that's Station in a nutshell. And we do projects outside as well. We've organized regional tours for bands. We book bands outside. We have a Next Stop project. And since a couple of years, we've been working on, it's hard to say that because the whole world's been shut for 2 years, but we're working on an artistic and professional development program from the independent music scene called Shuruq, cool. Which means sunrise, rising sun, etc. And that's...
Let's come back to Shuruq in a second. Okay. Anthony, so you are not calling us from Beirut. You are a part of an organization called Music Ally. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what Music Ally is.
Indeed, yes. So I'm actually calling in from Medellin, Colombia, in Latin America. As you tell from my accent, I'm not Latino. I'm from South London. Basically our headquarters is in London, and Music Ally is a knowledge and skills company. We've been around for the best part of 20 years now, since the millennium. And our focus has always been on information at the intersection between music and technology. So as we saw that the MP3 was coming in, a digital technology, we wanted the industry to start to embrace this rather than fear it. So we've been generating information around that, and that led to doing a lot of training. And we are a global operation now. So as you know, I'm based in LATAM, but I look after the global operation in terms of all of our activities, but we're particularly focused at the moment on developing regions of different continents outside of the English-speaking community. So I do a lot of work in LATAM, in Africa, and now working with Nabil in the Middle East. And we're all about helping to democratize information. So helping artists, labels at the independent level get access to the very best kind of tools, resources, and so on, to be able to have successful careers in the industry. So that's us.
Fantastic. Amazing. Thanks. Maya, you're calling in from Athens. You have a connection to Lebanon. You're a multi-instrumentalist. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
I'm a music producer. I'm actually from Lebanon. I moved to Athens about a year ago because Greece is my second route, as you can see from my family name. My project is Flugen, so it evolves around electronic beats and live instruments, and it's a project that changes a lot with time. Sometimes it's solo, sometimes it's collaboration, sometimes it's musical theater. A lot of things, beautiful things happened in Lebanon before most of us had to move. I'm starting from scratch here, and very interesting country, very nice artistic scene. And as Nabil said, everything was shut down for 2 years, so it was a great opportunity to start new projects. So I'm launching my new project, which is called Al Moya, and tomorrow we're releasing our first live video. So it's also a very interesting project. Stay tuned.
Amazing. Amazing. Thanks, Maya. So now that we get a sense of who's on the call, Nabil, maybe you can give us a sense of a really basic question. For somebody who doesn't know Lebanon at all, can you give a broad brush stroke understanding or a picture of what the music scene looks like historically and what it looks like today in the context of Lebanon's current situation?
Historically, and I'll only go back 100 years. Let's say after the Nahda movement and a lot of the Renaissance that happened in arts and culture, early part of 20th century, from the 50s, 60s, what's developed is what, for this conversation, we're going to call classical orchestrated Arab music. The Kulthums and Farid al-Atrash and Fairuz's. That's one category of music, the way we're looking at it. The second category we're going to call pop, which is a lot of the mainstream music you hear today across the whole region. A lot of these artists come from Lebanon and Egypt, historically also, as two kind of powerhouses of two cultural capitals, basically Beirut and Cairo, across the region. Lebanon definitely punching way above its weight, given the size of the country. And for us, the third category we would call the independent alternative music scene, which we are putting, rock, jazz, electro, hip hop, etc., into. What doesn't fit in classical and the pop side. So from the mid 2000s, Lebanon had a kind of awakening of the independent scene. We have to give credit to people like Zaid Hamdan and Soap Kills for kind of, kicking that off with very, very innovative sounds at the time, putting Arabic on trip hop. Suddenly it was like, wow, we can do this. So in their wake, there was, I'll call it the first generation of independent contemporary independent music, very much in the post-rock vein, Scrambled Eggs, Lumi, New Government, etc. And that was a few years of development, and I think that kind of launched an independent scene. Even though some of the actors in those bands have been around in the late 90s, labels like Ruptured with Ziad Naufal. So it was bubbling at a low level, but early 2010s, it's really where I think the past 10 years we saw a lot of development in the alternative scene, in rock, in hip hop, in electronic music, a lot in jazz growing. There's a healthy metal scene, even in Lebanon, and that community is pretty much like in many other countries constituted of micro SMEs, very fragmented little cultural music professionals, whether they're artists, studios, labels, everything's very small, but it's bubbling, right? What's happened in terms of...
Let me ask you a question real quick on this topic. Is this an industry that is focused on distributing music regionally, or is this an industry that's focused on playing and performing live in front of live audiences, and that's the core function of these bands?
First of all, I wouldn't call it an industry. I don't think we have scale enough at the moment. Maximum, it's a cottage industry. And, it's in Lebanon itself, the scene is quite small. In terms of the venue circuit, you have some bars, mid-sized venues like us or Ballroom Blitz, and then you go into what's left of bigger venues. So the market is small for everything in Lebanon. So artists ideally would look to tour in the region and then internationally, right? There's a lot of complications about moving around the region that we don't need to go into on this podcast, but people don't travel so easily, visa problems, etc. already within the region. So what do artists do? They try to get gigs in the region, but I think a lot get their albums out, and increasingly are looking to get their content onto digital platforms that could get them attention. I don't know if that answers it.
Yeah, that totally answers your question. Maya, maybe I can have you chime in here for a second before we move on to Shuruq. And maybe you can give a little tidbit about your experience as an artist, a performing artist. What was your experience like in the industry in Lebanon as an artist?
It's very special because there's an amazing bond in Lebanon, and it's like a very small country, so you're close to everything. You have connections. You build like a family. You start working with groups of people, so all the artists are somehow connected, and that's very beautiful because like it's a giant tree. As Nabil said, the bigger venues who are in charge of the main scene, like the pro artists, like we're not included in that. It's mainly survival mode, and it's a beautiful survival mode. Now it's a bit harder, obviously, but there's something magical about it that I really loved and still do.
Yeah, amazing. Anthony, I wonder if you can talk a little bit about your sort of career supporting artists and the work that Music Ally does in sort of the education sphere. Just to sort of chime in here.
So initially, just to give you some background, I'm a music producer as well, and that was what my initial career was. And I started working with Music Ally. Paul, the CEO, was in a famous band called the Sundays. I don't know if you guys have heard. They were big in the 90s anyway. So there's a number of us that are born and bred musicians, and we've always, at the core of what we do, wanted to be focused on helping us artists at the grassroots level. So we've been focused mostly on digital marketing skills because of the digital platforms that have come about over the last 20 years. It's a bit overwhelming for artists these days to be able to navigate those. So what we try and do is break down the insights and give them the best practice tips for that. So that they don't have to kind of wonder what they're doing with it, and they can kind of form plans around what they're trying to do, because it's tough out there. There's more music being made than ever before. You know, some of the figures just on Spotify, 60,000 uploads a day, and then that's just released music, never mind SoundCloud and these platforms. So there's an overwhelming amount of noise out there on the internet. So it's really important to help artists to work out how to cut through, and that's what we specialize in, really trying to break down how to navigate this modern industry, which, to be honest with you, for a lot of artists, it's overwhelming because they just want to make music. Ultimately, they don't necessarily want to be posting on all these social networks and doing all of this crazy kind of marketing strategy stuff. So we're trying to give them a way of cutting through having their own strategies and be able to have success.
Yeah, for sure. Nabil, tell us a little bit about Shuruq. I think that's what you're going to talk about, what that program is and what the mission of it is.
So mid-2019, Station, for one of the first times actually in its history, applied for a grant on a sector development project on music. And what was the thinking and the driver behind this is that for X number of years we've been in Lebanon, but also traveling around the region, going to festivals, different kind of professional reunions, listening to artists all across the region, audience, and internationally, festival directors, promoters, bookers, etc. And a couple of realizations, a few. On one side, there's a lot of change happening in the global music business. Anthony referred to the digital opportunities, but also disruption. And so that's one. There are new opportunities with digital on the production side, on the distribution side, on the reception side. One. Two, on increasingly the market expects artists to behave as entrepreneurs and kind of take charge of their careers themselves by the whole A&R model of talent spotting, signing, and then building their careers has kind of changed. And that's the disruptive element of the digital, where the world expects and the business expects artists to have content out there, have a presence out there, and that's how they get spotted. The third macro view is that today, growth in music will come from either technology or emerging markets. Our Anthony here is based in Latin America. He's mentioned that their focus is looking at opportunities and looking to help strengthen and build emerging markets. They're active in Latin America and Africa. Where's the Middle East in the picture? People are interested to go to India, but it's complicated culturally. China, huge market, people don't know how to get in. Korea is exploding, with BTS and the whole Hallyu and K-pop. But where are we? We have a lot to bring as well. So there's a lot of talent available in Lebanon and in the region. But it's fragmented. We've had historically very serious piracy issues. Revenues are less just by purchasing power in the country. So we're looking at all of this and we're like, okay, what we need is something to help identify, present, and promote a next generation of talent from the region. So how do we do that? We decide to set up apply for this program that we designed called Shuruq that would offer training, distribution, live opportunities, and online content. So that was the original idea in 2019, mid-2019. There have been so many crises in Lebanon since then, yada, 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 that, we then rescaled the project, positioned it as a pilot in year one, where we would start with one training and given the sanitary crisis, we couldn't have live events. So we started shooting Shuruq sessions, okay? But it was clearly, this project starts from helping to develop the foundations of the independent music scene by raising the knowledge level first and foremost, and giving people actionable tools for them to start taking charge of their career. So we looked in the beginning at finding, creating the content ourselves, the training content, and then we were like, no, we want to take best-in-class content, working with great partners who honestly care about the region, and kind of share our spirit and can understand the dynamics of emerging markets. So we did our benchmarking. Thankfully landed on Music Ally in Medellin. Mr. Anthony, it's been over 6 months, him and I, that we're coordinating, made a lot of jokes about Colombia and Narcos and all of that. And we managed to design our first training, digital music marketing, that we launched in October. And that ran in Q4 last year to 30 participants, including Maya. And that ran for 4 weeks. And what we wanted to do is kind of set a baseline first. And so the first 2 weeks were about Music 101, obviously not comprehensive, but at first take at understanding, what the music industry is, what it means to be an artist today, building a team, understanding copyright, what's the difference between the label and the publisher, etc. Week 2, we looked at the artist as entrepreneur today. We had different guests come in also, international guests, and Anthony can mention a bit about that. And then in the last 2 weeks of the program, we had the focus was on music marketing, release platforms, and social media. And so we had these live webinars online, and then we had a really amazing suite of online learning modules by Music Ally that people could go and check out in their own time at their own pace. So that ran for 4 weeks with little quizzes along the way. And in the last 2 weeks, we selected 3 bands for mentorship. And very happy that Maya was one of them. And they went on to do a deeper level of digital health check, understanding what a marketing plan and a release plan is, with a whole release playbook that was shared with the participants.
Cool.
So that's that was the first version of our training with Music Ally on digital music marketing.
Very cool. Anthony, maybe you can sort of put a little more meat on the bone to give a sense of I guess maybe like the pedagogical approach to all this stuff. How come, what's the educational approach to designing this course, and what are some of the experiences that you had specifically in Lebanon that would be interesting to learn about?
Yeah, I think at this first stage in the project, the focus was on curating the modules that would be of most use to the audience specifically, knowing what their challenges would be and so on, and knowing what platforms they're going to focus on. Our pedagogy is fairly straightforward. I mean, we try to keep it relevant to both artists and people that are looking to run labels and managers, so that there are tips for all there, really. And a lot of the disciplines these days are kind of crossing over. So a lot of artists self-manage, or they might be releasing their own records as their own independent label. So we try and come from the perspective that they need to know all the skills. And we have like various ways of delivering. So we, as Nabil mentioned, we can do live webinars with Q&As presenting. We also have this on-demand e-learning platform, the Learning Hub, which is what they tapped into, so people can do things in their own time. Especially because these days a lot of people have second jobs, or they're working, or they have family and so on. They need to fit their learning around their schedule. So it's just to give them various different ways of learning. And then we have sort of discussion panel type scenario where we invite guests in that are experts in their subjects, and draw out the information from them, and even have artists speaking on those panels so that you can get the kind of experience of peers that face the same kind of challenges that they do. So yeah, I think does that answer your question, or is there any particular?
Yeah, I'd love to know what the experience was like of bringing experts to who may not be familiar with Lebanon, and what that sort of exchange was like.
Honestly, it was really interesting, like approaching people to get them involved in the panel, because obviously they don't get approached very often, if ever. I don't think any of them have ever been approached to speak to people in Lebanon or in the Middle East much. You know, it's still early days. You know, there's a few sort of conferences that have happened over time, but it's you know, the immediate reaction was trying to kind of give them a bit of context, because, you know, I think a lot of international people, they just sort of know snippets from the news and so on. So they tend to think of, you know, some of the issues that take place, but also giving them some context, you know, around, you know, just from speaking to Nabil, I've never been to Lebanon, but I've learned so much just, you know, from speaking to him, you know, even about the situation around electricity and so on. So giving international people a bit of context around that, because, you know, there are challenges in Africa as well. You know, they have challenges with data access and all sorts of things. So we're very sensitive to that. And we're really looking forward to kind of developing this partnership and understanding more how we can tailor things to the region, to the artists, to the situation out there. You know, that's all dependent on funding and stuff. We did our best with what we had to make this a good first stage. So our kind of vision, as Nabil will allude to later on, is, you know, to grow this and develop it and localize it and do a lot more. So,
yeah. I'm going to ask you one more question, Anthony, before I move on to Maya. If there was one strong point that you noticed in the sort of Lebanese market that you didn't expect from your interactions with the music acts, I'd love to know what that is. And if there was one thing that you think, this is, if I were to identify one weakest muscle, this is the thing that I think needs the most strengthening and would have the biggest impact down the line.
Wow, okay, that's quite a question. I'd love to be able to get the rest of the training team on here who had much more direct contact with a lot of the artists and probably could give an even better answer. What I would say is that the people that were engaged in the program were really, I would say, humble and hungry for knowledge, and kind of had a good global perspective. You know, they were also, you know, I think keen to make it known that there are challenges that are specific to them that we need to get our heads around more as well. So I think that was the sort of positive side. If there was a negative side, I think that maybe there's still some kind of limiting kind of view of how big they can, how they can expand, how they can make money and so on. I think a lot of people would kind of see it as a real challenge to make money in this industry. And I think what it is a lot of artists think that they kind of somehow, because they decide to do art or music, that they are kind of, they deserve money in some sense for making what they consider to be good music. But I think what they need to do is open their minds to the different ways that people are breaking their music now on some of these platforms like TikTok, etc. There's a completely different way of doing it, and the playing field has been leveled. So whether you're from Lebanon or from Nigeria or from the ghetto in Medellin, you have the same tools at your disposal. So being in Lebanon is not an excuse for not being successful. So I'd say that's one thing I would say, is just to just be as positive as possible about the opportunity. That's, you know, wherever you're based in the world.
Sure. Maya, I would love for you to chime in as somebody who was on the receiving end of the program, and congratulations on being selected. That's wonderful. What was the program like for you?
On a personal level, I was in a place where I needed information. Everything was changing, and so many platforms, so many things happening online, digitally, and I don't like really being involved in all the platforms and being forced to follow everything that's happening. So they made it very interesting and really super interesting. Like the modules dedicated to where to go, so many things. Basically, it's not about just making music. It's about being an entrepreneur, your own entrepreneur. So it's also being an influencer. When you hear influencer, it's like automatically I need to speak with the people or do things that I'm not used to do. But they made sure to explain that it's you and your originality. Like you can choose which platform to work with as long as your message is being transmitted in the way you want to. It's also
I have a question
very
for you,
important.
Maya.
Yeah.
Is there a specific lesson or insight that you walked away with that you didn't expect to find out? Like maybe you walked into the program thinking, I'm really shit at this.
I mean, I was lost
better.
and it was more organized when I left. It was like, okay, there's the YouTube ecosystem, there's the Instagram ecosystem, there's many ecosystems that were explained in detail, like how to interact with YouTube, how to interact through Instagram. It's really interesting when you're lost and it's overwhelming, the information. When you have it organized in videos and you take your time to learn, and you really need to want to learn as well. You need to, as you said, open your brain, open your heart. Wherever you are, you can do it if you just focus and work on your brand. It's all about branding now. It's all about interacting with the people.
Yeah. What are some of the next steps for you, Maya, after the program? And maybe even because of the program that you see coming down the next 6 months or next 12 months or next 2 years, given the interaction, given the education?
First of all, it's very important to work with teams in everything. Even in music, when you compose alone, it's something. When you compose with someone, it's always an extra energy. So I think it's really important to have artist teams. It's a huge team now, the music. You can't do everything by yourself. You really need a team that understands your vision and pushes it forward. So with all the details that I've learned, I saw how important it is to have a team that's like a family and like never stop. I don't know, keep on moving. It's changing every day. I don't know if there's a rule to anything. It's like, don't give up.
Amazing. Nabil, I want to ask you, I think this is a good time to talk to you about what the interaction has been like with the British Council. I want to make sure that we say that this project and your initiation, as you mentioned in your introduction, has been a long-term thing. But I'm curious what the interaction has been like with an organization that's interested in supporting a movement and that's already happening.
So Shuruq got going with support from AFAC and the French Institute, which allowed us to develop the planning side of the project and allowed us to start shooting some content and to identify Music Ally as our partner. And those two grants happened to be sector grants, but historically, me looking at public funding has always been project based, and the fact that the British Council, through the Catapult program, are looking at sector development is very, very important for us in terms of having a partner on board that understands the bigger picture and not just one little project that could be super sexy and give a lot of visibility, but actually would just be supporting 5-10 people, and then it's presented once or 4 times and it's over. So and so the British Council's Catapult program, supporting gaming, dance, music, etc., is the kind of partnership that we want on this project. I'll actually jump back to when I first arrived in Beirut. And I was looking for some kind of study of the culture and creative industries in Lebanon to kind of know where we are and how to situate ourselves. And the only thing available then was a study by the British Council done in 2008, a mapping that was done of the CCIs, the culture and creative industries. And that was an extremely important compass to navigate in the beginning. So, having that type of partner on board now is beautiful. There's a link, obviously, with Music Ally in the UK. And then there is the reality is that, the UK market is one of the most advanced in terms of music. So having that type of partner who can, with the links that we can eventually develop with the British Council, through Music Ally, and starting to connect artists, music professionals, and scenes, we really look forward to the opportunity there. And the British Council has already kindly invited Station to participate in a number of festivals in the UK. And we're in discussion about bringing delegations of Lebanese artists who would come to be able to meet other professionals and start to actually, expand their horizon of professionalism.
Tell us a little bit about the Sonica Festival and what that might look like, that interaction, if you can.
Yeah. So Station has a background, our programming historically has been visual arts and live arts. And so suddenly when you have a proposition, so British Council proposed to us, Mark Markish, who's, our main contact at the British Council, proposed that we participate in Sonica, which is a sonic arts exhibition happening in Glasgow mid-March, bringing together visual artists, digital artists, and sonic artists. And it's a multi-venue festival happening with, daytime installations in public space, in art spaces, but also music, both organic and electronic. So we're really looking forward to participate in that, making new connections, looking at innovative ideas happening. I feel like it's going to be a very cutting edge festival. And with discussions with Mark at the British Council, we're looking at extending that trip to London to meet specialists in the music side from the music side of British Council, and looking to see what connections we can make. Obviously, meeting Music Ally and others. There's certain, as Maya mentioned earlier, the brain drain of the country. A lot of talent is moving within the region and Europe. So there are a number of people from the Levant who are in and around London who we also look to connect with. So having the British Council facilitating that, enabling professional contacts, stepping in now at this critical pre-release, post-production phase, marketing strategy, brand identity development. This is everything concrete that the British Council are helping us with. We're really happy to have them on board as a partner. So a key component of the Shuruq pilot program, as we're doing it now, has been the training. So we know we did the first one. We've gotten feedback that's generally positive, but we know that's actually in great part positive, but what we'd like to do is to localize the content more. And what we're doing with Music Ally, the outlook is to localize more and look to do these trainings more in different parts of the Swana region, Southwest Asia, North Africa. And then the other thing, because we haven't managed to do concerts, we've actually pivoted online, and we've started shooting in this first, I'll call it season, Beirut-based bands. So we've shot over 10 bands now in what we're calling the Shuruq sessions, live performance music videos, that we're now packaging up in post-production with the view to launch these in the spring. And this will be a showcase video channel on YouTube of a selection of bands from Lebanon. And we will have the live audio tracks also on the different digital streaming platforms. And the idea is then we would continue filming content across the region to showcase the incredible talent we have in the Arabic-speaking world and the wider Swana region.
Cool. That's great.
So look out for Shuruq sessions and look out for the next trainings.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you so much for joining. This was a really fun conversation. Really good to hear Three very different perspectives on the music industry in Lebanon, and I'm glad that you all joined us.